I've had the back pain with the herniated disc, but
yeah. Rightio. So, 3, 2, 1. Welcome back, folks, to WP-Tonic This Week in WordPress and SaaS. I've got a great guest. I've got my co-host. He's a champ. He's had some medical problems. Sound a bit awful, but he seems to be recovering. So it's great to have Andrew back. We've got a great guest. We've got Sam from Datajoin. I'm going to let Sam quickly introduce himself. I'm not going to attempt to pronounce his surname. As you know, Tribe, I just butcher some names and I have no idea on this one. So I'm not going to insult the man. So, Sam, can you give us a quick 10, 20-second intro about you and what you do at Datajoin?
Sure. Yeah, thanks for having me on the show, John and Andrew. No worries on the last name. My name is Sam Fonoimoana. That's a Samoan last name. I'm a Polynesian. I'm Hawaiian and Samoan. I'm the founder and CEO of Datajoin. And, we call ourselves, we always say we're not a marketer, but we're a marketer's best friend. And what we do at Datajoin is really to help all marketing teams connect data, interconnect all data across all of their systems. And that's what we do in a nutshell. So
that's great. Cool. And Andrew, would you like to quickly introduce yourself to the new listeners and viewers?
Sure. I'm Andrew Palmer, co-founder of Bertha.ai, which helps you right where you work, specifically within WordPress.
That's great. And before we go into this great interview, I've got a couple messages from our major sponsors. We'll be back in a few moments. We're coming back. I just want to point out that you can sign up for the WP-Tonic newsletter. I do a weekly newsletter. I choose one of the stories of our Friday show, and it's all about tech and WordPress. You can get that by going over to WP-Tonic/newsletter. You can also, there's a list of special offers from our sponsors and recommendations. There's a load of goodies on that page. So sign up for the free newsletter. It's great. So we'll go straight into it, Sam. So maybe you can give us some background about how you got involved in tech, because by your bio, you did your MBA at Brigham Young University. So how did you get into tech, and then how did Datajoin start and your involvement in that?
Sure. As far as how I got into tech, I mean, when I think back on it, I think there's really two things. First, in college, I think I was introduced. I think the seeds were planted in a couple of information systems courses I had in college. That's the first thing that comes to mind. And then second is just purely by chance. I mean, and we'll talk a little bit about the journey that I took to get here. But as far as, back in college, I studied entrepreneurship as an undergrad at Brigham Young University. And then I went back for the MBA program and I studied finance. And so, in the midst of studying about, lifetime value of money, EBITDA, debits and credits, I had a couple of courses. The first one was on Microsoft Excel. And the first time I opened up Excel, I did not know what I was looking at. A bunch of rectangles on the screen, which is funny to think about now. That I love Excel and I feel I'm pretty good at it now. And then the second information systems course was on VBA, Visual Basic, basically the programming languages inside of Excel to automate spreadsheets beyond the functions. And so both of those classes, I thought to myself, wow, this is cool. You can automate things. And I don't know how I'm going to use this in the future, but I think that I'd like to use this somehow inside of the future. So I kind of, tucked that thought away to the back of my mind. But that really, planted the seeds for me of this idea that you can automate things through programming. And then as far as purely by chance, I mean, my jobs out of college were, exporting cereal and Laie quarters to Tahiti. That was my first job. That's definitely a far cry from tech where I'm at today. My second job was, was working for this turbo shop. They would install turbos on everything from Mustangs to family minivans, right? And so once again, kind of another, definitely far from where I'm at today in tech. And then my third job was a scrapbooking company. It was like this publication for scrapbookers, and it was like the Sports Illustrated of scrapbooking. So those are my first three jobs out of college. And so that's why I say purely by chance, I ended up, me along with the entire finance team, when I was working for that scrapbooking company, we got acquired by a bigger scrapbooking company publication, and the entire finance team got laid off. And one day passes by. I remember it was right before the 4th of July. I was flipping burgers. I just got laid off, and just thinking, wow, well, it shouldn't take me too long to land another finance job, because that was my training. One day passes by, 1 week, 1 month turns into 6 months, and I had made it to the final interview stage of 10 different companies, different healthcare companies, financial institutions, retailers, and for whatever reason, none of them panned out. My cousin, who works for a tech company, he called me up. He said, "Hey, Sam, are you a statistician?" And I looked at him. I said,
"Oh, I am there."
Yeah, I'm a statistician. I got 6 months, of no, I'm a statistician. And so I took the call, and I called my buddy who's an actuary, just to make sure I know what I'm talking about with my regression and my ANO and my t-test, all that stuff I learned in school. He said, "Hey, your understanding is good enough." So I went and got that job, and there I was, bam. All of a sudden, I'm in a tech company. I went from scrapbooking company to a tech company, and the rest is history. Now I've only been in tech since then.
Cool. So on the tech company, so how did you transition? How long were you working in the tech company when you realized that your qualification or your study for entrepreneurship suddenly came about? Was it a light bulb moment? Was it how did it start? Like a side hustle, or did somebody ask you a question? How did you get into Datajoin? What was the decision making process and path towards that?
Yeah, so for me, when I started at that company, the company's called One-on-One Marketing. They hired me as a chief statistician, but really the biggest problem that I solved the whole time I was there, and really where I made my mark at the company, was combining data from disparate data sources. Like that really was it. And at this time in my career, I did know how to use Excel pretty well, and I had dabbled in Visual Basic. But the problem at One-on-One Marketing was that we were spending money on marketing, millions of dollars each month, and we were generating leads for for-profit universities like University of Phoenix. And the final success metric wasn't the lead. It's actually if that lead enrolled at the university, And so the University of Phoenix had that data. We had all the marketing data. We knew what the cost per lead was, but we did not know what the cost per student enrollment was. And so that right there, that really was my first glimpse into a problem that I then saw at many, many companies after. And this idea that data, marketing data is separated from the final outcome data, which is normally sales data. And that's a problem for marketers because they have a hard time being able to do attribution. They have a hard time being able to activate, without having those two data sets connected. So that's really what got me, into tech and into Datajoin, like what we do today. I went from One-on-One Marketing to Ancestry.com, a much bigger company that's well known. Same issues there, right? They're spending money, but they don't have a really good grasp on how that's turning into bill throughs on the trials and renewals. So.
Yeah, so it's a problem that needs to be solved for a lot of people. Go on, John.
Yeah, sorry. So maybe you can give us some background, a quick intro of what Datajoin does, Sam.
Sure. So Datajoin, what it does is it's really taking this concept of connecting data from systems, but to me, it takes it to this crazy level of what I like to call activation. And so, for example, getting Salesforce data for leads that have converted to a customer, and being able to pipe that back into Facebook ads or back into Google ads. So instead of optimizing to a cost per click, you can now optimize to revenue, right? Cost per revenue or cost per opportunity. And it's just a much, higher quality metric to be able to optimize to, rather than something that's higher up in the funnel. So we could take data, across all the different marketing systems and send it to another system. So this is, and this is web analytics data, sending it into your marketing automation platform, which is what, I spoke about yesterday at Adobe Experience Makers, right? And, sending data from your marketing automation into your ad platforms. So marketers have all the data they need, they're sitting on it, but it's just in different systems. And so Datajoin is all about getting that data, not into a spreadsheet or into a chart, but getting it directly into the systems that the marketers are using. So they have all the customer journey data, but right at home where they work every day.
Right. Turning that into cash. Turning that into cash. In fact, turning the cash into cash, because you can say, okay, my cost of acquisition is this much, but you can't really. People aren't really analyzing that cost of acquisition against return on investment, right? So they're two separate things. So what you're doing is you're saying, okay, we've got a cost of acquisition. This is how much we've made from that acquisition, or how long the pathway will take for us to make money from that acquisition, depending on the cost of acquisition. And we're then taking that data, throwing it back into the ad platforms, and saying we only want to remarket to these guys, right? Because that's what I mean, turning cash into cash.
Yeah.
So it's a great little system you've got going on there. It's interesting. Who are your top clients? What clients do you aim at?
We've been going with nobody knows who I am, or nobody knows who Datajoin is, right? So for me, I've had to partner with a much bigger ship, much bigger horse, which is Adobe. And so Adobe's customers have been my customers. So
right.
To date, all of our customers are Fortune 500 enterprises. They are in the B2B marketing space mostly. But I don't think it's limited to just that. I think, we've just been kind of fed these leads, which we love. I mean, these logos, I can't believe that I'm working with these companies,
Well, you'll be working with another big one in a minute, won't you? Figma, who Adobe have just done a deal to buy for $20 billion. So that's a nice client to add to your list, Sam, straight away. Jonathan, back to you.
Yeah, so what's been one or two of the biggest challenges that you and your team have faced in developing Datajoin?
I mean, for me, the first thing that comes to mind is, how do we do more with less? In the earlier days, it was just me and one other person, Nate Jackson, and we were, selling to Workday, and Workday probably thought we had a huge, workforce, but they didn't know that it was just me and Nate Jackson kind of behind the scenes, and so how do we do more with less? I mean. So that's something where Nate and I had to learn a lot of different skill sets. I mean, I was already skilled at data engineering, and so I can handle a lot of that work. But when we have to handle the marketing and the sales and the biz dev and the partnerships, that was a lot of long days. I'll say that, and a lot of stressful cycles, for Nate and I in those early years. And I still try to continue that same culture with even we got funded this year, our seed round. We have a lot more customers in those early days, but I try to keep that same culture. Like, hey, how can we do more with less? The cavalry is not coming. We are the cavalry. That's one of our mission. Our second mission statement is, find a way. And so I think that's always been a challenge, but it's one that I relish. It's one that I'm just used to.
I think you're describing the journey of every single startup in the world, aren't you? I'm involved in a startup. Jonathan's got a business. He's the head of his business. He's got to use, disparate developers here and there, or freelancers, or design. And this is why the success of things like Figma and the success of things like design houses that accept unlimited orders for people like us to go around. We've got, the key is not to fool people or to impress people, in as much as you are a bigger team than you are. And there's never an excuse for not giving great support. You can't ever say, well, we're a startup, we're not we can't get back to you within 48 hours. You've got to get back to them almost instantly. So I noticed you've got a family member working with you. How's that going?
It's good. I've got a big family, so I just pick I pick the best of the best. No, I'm just kidding. Don't show this to my family.
Can't have a favorite son, nephew, or whatever, can you? Not allowed.
That's my brother's son, and he's great. He graduated with top marks from his university, and just really doing a good job with marketing for us. So.
Yeah. But before we go for our break, Sam, obviously you're doing work for mostly with Adobe as a partner, and you're doing work with these Fortune. So Datajoin, is it obviously it's a web-based platform, and it provides a number of kind of API or that can join certain data to other data, so you basically have more insight about the whole marketing process. Am I doing a reasonable job surmising something that's very complicated?
Yeah, that's a great job right there. I mean, we call them micro integrations. That's a term that we're coining at Datajoin. I think when people think of integration, probably some of them get stressed out. They get the shivers because they know that's a big process and a big undertaking for most companies. So for us, it's like, no, we can help you skip the IT line, because we do micro integrations, and they're fast. I mean, in a couple of days, you're in and out. You don't need to wait in line for IT, and you can go to your next stakeholder meeting next week, and you can show them some solid results. So what you described is what we call micro integrations.
Yeah, so your ERP kind of, but without the massive project manager cost to ERPing, and getting that whole umbrella view of what's going on with all your data within the company. So are you looking to do any more integrations? Can you get a Zap integration into anything, or what are you doing? Where's the roadmap going?
Yeah, the roadmap, I mean, we really focus on what I call the big four, and these are what I consider the big four platforms inside the MarTech stack, inside the B2B MarTech stack specifically, and that would be any ad platform. So this would be Google Ads, Facebook Ads, Bing Ads, LinkedIn. That's the first one, and then the second is your analytics platform. So that's Google Analytics and Adobe Analytics. And then the third is your marketing automation, your email systems, which would be, right now we have Marketo, Eloqua, Salesforce Marketing Cloud, and Pardot. And then the last one is CRM, which would be Salesforce and Dynamics. So if you take any of those systems in that, in what I call the big four, we have a micro integration that can connect any two of them at a time and can do it really quickly.
Right.
Cool. Oh, that's great. I think we're going to go for our break. We'll be back. I think it's been a really interesting discussion. Sam, thanks for coming on. Like I say, we'll be back in a few moments, folks. We're coming back. It's been a great discussion. I just want to plug my own, and Andrew's going to be part of it as well. We're doing the Membership Success Summit on the 28th, the 29th of this month. And also there's going to be an extra day, which is part of the pay ticket, on the 1st of October. It's going to be a great free live event. We've got some amazing speakers. It's about if you're building a membership website for somebody, or you're looking to build an online business yourself, we're going to have a load of experts that can tell you how to market it and also build the thing. Our keynote speaker is Pat Flynn, one of the leading experts about building online businesses. And we got a very impressive group of speakers, and you can watch it all for free. And you can watch Andrew and Stephanie. They're fantastic, and I am really looking forward to it. And the link will be in the show notes. Like I say, to watch the 2 days live is totally free, and it's a great resource. So back into the discussion. So obviously you touched on this about how you've managed to market the company. It seems you got this partnership and this alliance with Adobe, and it seems to have been crucial. Do you mind me asking, that couldn't have been, well, I'm presuming that this was difficult, but I don't know. Maybe you can, how did you develop this relationship with Adobe? And because I think it would be interested to some of our listeners how you develop a partnership, because it's talked about a lot. And Andrews, in some ways, has benefited from a partnership with Yoast, which is
Definitely.
a leading SEO. So maybe you can give some insight about that, Sam.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think when I look back, you know, if you would have talked to me out of college, I'll probably just tell you, hey, I'm just the average Hawaiian kid, Samoan kid. I don't know anybody. I don't have any network. I mean, all my family's back in the islands. I don't know anyone who works for any tech companies. And, you know, for me, just looking back on it though, like anyone who feels similar, like in those shoes, I would just say, like, just do a good job wherever you go. You always have your good name to count upon to build a network. And that's how I got into Adobe. It wasn't an overnight thing that I sent a cold email and they answered back. I mean, none of those work. But what did work for me was, you know, working for DOMO, and I became really good friends with our LinkedIn marketing manager there, and really helped him in a lot of different ways to be able to optimize his spend. I would play horse with him. That's just playing horse with the basketball. I'd go out every day and we just talk story, as we say in Hawaii, and we just shoot some hoops. I go back in, do some work for him, you know, get him the results that he needs to shine in the organization. And then fast forward 6 years later, and he's one of the product marketing managers at Adobe. And so he's there at Adobe. He knows what I can do. He's already seen me in action. We're very good friends at this time. And so I have a connection with him that any other competitor couldn't touch, right? And so I can go in with him and create this partnership with him. He introduces me to the rest of the team, and you know, the rest is history. So that's how I was able to make this partnership. So
was there, because you said that you started off with your founder, I presume it's your founder. Is the founder the programmer, the person that programs and that? Would that be correct? Or
yeah, so I'm the founder. You know, I do know how to program. I built all of the first micro integrations, just learning Python on my own. And I mean, I never took a computer science course. I did a lot of YouTube. I took a lot of Coursera classes. I actually would pay the data engineering team back at One-on-One Marketing in breakfast croissants, and they would teach me, you know, at 6 a.m. in the morning for about a month. Every day we would come in. And, you know, for me, I feel like coming into analytics with the finance mindset of follow the money, I felt like, you know, that was good for me, because I knew what to analyze and I knew what to attack that was going to move the needle for the bottom line, so that the finance guys wouldn't get mad, because that's how I think.
Well, I think you given a great insight there. So you want to listen there, tribe. Croissants, you know, bribe the developers with croissants in the morning.
Well, there's another thing there, Jonathan, that's very, very appropriate to our community, the WordPress community, Sam. You know, we have these WordCamps, and somebody said, you know, take this with a grain of salt. And I didn't go to the last WordCamp in America, which was last week, which Jonathan went to. And this guy said, oh, I didn't go there, but, you know, is it worth it? It just seems like, you know, there's a lot of advertisers there, blah, 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 blah. But actually, it's about building relationships. And my relationship with Yoast was built via Yoast himself. You know, he tweeted me and said, I love Bertha, what's going on? And 6 months down the line, we're meeting at WordCamps and we're making friends. And Marika herself came on this podcast a couple of times, came on another podcast that I'm doing. And you make friends with people, Sam. And it's good to have friends in good places, not necessarily high places, because at the time, Yoast had not been purchased by a large company. And one of the things that I wanted to say to you was, how did the seed round funding go? That's hard work, right? Seeing these venture capitalists, and they want to know the inside leg measurements of your cat, really, don't they?
That's a good way to put it. I never heard anyone put it like that, but that's a good way to put it. Yeah, I mean, for me, from my experience, I don't know. I've seen some founders, of course, on LinkedIn, you only see the success stories, right? But I've seen founders go in, pre-revenue, pre-customers, and come away with a nice round. And that just wasn't my experience. I mean, I always tell people, for me, it was easier to build a business than to fundraise, right? It was actually easier for me to get customers, get my partnership with Adobe, bring on these Fortune 500 customers. And just for various reasons, I know we're competing in a crowded space, even though we're doing something that no one else is really doing. It's still a crowded space, but it was a long journey. I'm talking about multiple years journey for me to be able to actually get this seed round, so that it's not just me and Nate anymore. And but it feels great to be on this side of the coin, where I've got revenue, and I have the funding. And I've got a team now that's greater than 2. I mean, we're over 10 people now who are working for us, and I just feel really grateful to be in this position. But for anyone who's struggling with that fundraising, yeah, you definitely have to be prepared to answer all the questions. But I felt like my fundraising got better when I focused less on giving the perfect pitch, the perfect slide sequence, and more on talking about the opportunity and even the problems that I'm facing, and how the investment is going to help me to overcome my
Well, I
problems.
think, I don't know, I just get the impression that serious investors want to see that your figures and you understand your business and how you're going to expand it, because that's why they're investing, because they want to see a return. So if they don't think that you have a really detailed understanding of how you're going to market and get more customers, they're really not going to invest, are they?
Well, let me answer that one, because I met a couple of not institution investors, but VCs when I was out in New York last year. And one of the reasons I think the second part of your story there, Sam, where you focused on the dream, let's call it a dream, where you want to end up, how you're going to get there with new developers, with marketing managers, with customer success people, etc., people that you can afford to be built. You can now afford to pay your bills, and you can concentrate on the roadmap and where you want to go. And part of these wanting to be inside of your cat's leg measurement is the fact of, yes, they're trying to understand your business from a financial perspective. Is it a viable product? Is it a viable service? And then as soon as you get rid of that, you can start talking about the dream. Because if you start talking about the dream first, without having that data available, you become between a rock and a hard place, because at one time in the day, whether that's over a 3 months to 6 months to 9 month period, and it can also put you off the actually going for investment, because this is taking so long. Are we going to do it? It distracts you from the business. I know this from having sold a business to a large hosting company as well. That distracts you. I was distracted for a year. So you have to focus. You have to have your nuts and bolts together and your sums added up with the financials. But you are so right there. You have to have your roadmap together in your dreams, your ambitions, your criteria for getting there. And that is one of the most important aspects that I think the people that are asking for seed funding or any kind of funding, they don't really focus on that, and they're not really sure of how to get from that A to B. So that's good advice there, Sam. Over to you, John.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's great. I think we're going to wrap up the podcast part of the show. Are you okay to stay on for another 10 minutes, Sam? And we call that bonus content, and they can watch the whole interview plus the bonus on the WP-Tonic YouTube channel and on the live LinkedIn video that we're pushing out as well. But for the podcast, we're going to wrap it up. We like to keep it around 30 minutes, Sam. So, Sam, what's the best way for people to find out more about you and about Datajoin?
I think the best place for me, I'm on LinkedIn a lot these days. So I think my LinkedIn profile, that's probably the best one to take a look at. So find me on LinkedIn, Sam Fonoimoana. I'm the only one on there. And then Datajoin.com. You guys can go learn more about microintegrations at Datajoin.com.
Yeah, thanks for that. Andrew, how can people find out more about you and what you're up to?
You can find me at Bertha AI _ and at Arnie Palmer on Twitter, and of course at Bertha AI, Bertha.ai. There you go. What can I say? How many times do I say it? You keep on forgetting it, but there you go.
There we go. And like I say, do join us for the Friday show. Join us live, because we have actual people comment live on the Friday show, and it's hilarious. That's at 8:30 Pacific Standard. You can join us on the WP-Tonic YouTube channel, and also join us on the WP-Tonic Facebook group page, where the live show is pushed, and you can comment and be part of the discussion. What more can you ask for? We're going to wrap up the podcast. Please join us on the YouTube channel to watch the bonus content of this great interview. We'll see you next week, folks. Bye.
See ya.
So, bonus content. So, Sam, if you had a time machine and you could go back to the start of this journey and give yourself some advice, are there one or two things that you wish you could have told yourself at the beginning?
Oh, wow. Yeah, if I could go back to day one, Sam, I would tell him, this is, I was coming out of DOMO as the director of marketing analytics. I thought the world bowed at every word I spoke on data, at the time, but that wasn't the case. Like when I'm on my own, it wasn't the case at all. So I would tell myself, you may think you can sell, Sam, but trust me, you can't sell. You don't know how to sell yet. And I would recommend to myself, read these 3 books. Read Start With No with Jim Camp. Read Gap Selling by Keenan. And then read Never Split the Difference by Voss. These are all excellent books that talk about selling and the psychology behind getting people to, open up and make decisions. So that's the first thing. You think you can sell, but you can't, bro. You not yet. So second thing I would say is, network. I think in my early days, I thought I had the answers to everything, and I stayed in front of my computer quite a bit and just coding and Googling. But, really the Adobe partnership is a good example. I mean, that happened by talking with people, getting out and meeting people, in engaging with people. And throughout this journey, throughout the whole fundraising journey and the unfolding and the growth of Datajoin, it's been people that I've met with. I mean, I've got a whole journal entry about it, right? About the people who introduced me to people who opened up the doors for my first check, for my second check, for my second customer. And so just get out there and network. Don't stay behind your computer all day. Like, that's probably what you want to do, Sam, but don't do it. Like, get out there and go meet with people.
Well, it's tricky, isn't it? Because you've got to build a product, and you learn from the, my own small little company. It's taken over 3 years, but I think I understand now what I'm selling, and we have some processes. I'm a bit of a slow learner, Sam. I wish I'd been a bit of a quicker learner. But it's a bit tricky because you know the product, but also you've got to make a judgment. You're so right. You've got to have a network. But you kind of jumped the last question, which is what books, websites, online resources, and you mentioned 3 books. What are some of the key? And you said about selling. So can you give us a quick synopsis? I know it's a really ridiculous question, but it's a podcast. Is what were some of the key things that you learned from those books around selling that you just didn't realize?
I mean, for me, I think the biggest thing is, if you find yourself pitching and you're doing most of the talking, you're probably doing it wrong. The biggest thing I found out is the discovery. Like, that's the most important thing. Like, people are reaching out to you. They don't necessarily care about your features. Like, they're reaching out to you because there's something that drove them. Either their boss, gave them some sort of a warning, say, hey, if you can't prove the success of these campaigns in the next quarter, then we're going to have a problem here with our marketing budget, or, you might get fired. Like, these are the real reasons why, people are coming to us and buying. I mean, I've seen it. I mean, we had one prospect reach out to us, frantic, and then the next call he was fired, right? Because he didn't have the data he needed to show his performance. So, I mean, less talking, more listening, and just remember, like, stop pitching and just listen. Like, try to discover, like why are they in fact, talking to you, and filled out a form, and we're willing to, set aside some time to talk to you. That's probably the number one thing.
I think the message in selling, I've been selling all my life, unfortunately. I was like catering and chefing and restauranting and stuff like that, but also, I was a print sales rep. It's one of the hardest jobs that I've ever done, but I was really very successful at it. And my boss said to me when I first started, my first day, he said, I want you to listen with intent. And if you don't look as though you're listening with intent, at least look as though you're interested, because yes, it is only ink on paper, but to them it's life or death. When you're a million leaflets for SmithKline Beecham, or GSK as they're now known, for that guy who's on his 24 grand a year job just out of graduate college and stuff, it is life or death. That leaflet is life or death, and any typos on it you've got to spot. So listen with intent, and if you can't listen with intent, make sure that you do actually look interested. So yeah, discovery calls, listen with intent, stop selling. Realize when you've actually made the sale. That's so many people I hear just go on and on about, and they've got the deal, they've done the deal. So it's just learn how to stop selling when you or realize when you've actually got the guy in the palm of your hands. Yeah, it's great advice, Sam. But business books are great. I'm going to give you a business book which is old, but it will help you because you're a new company, and I know that it will help you. But it's called Contagious, and I can't remember the author.
I'm going to type it down on my notes right now.
It's here, Contagious, and it's about viral marketing. It's amazing. So it's one of the best books that I've ever read in my life. It's a big orange cover on it. You can get it on Amazon for about $10.
So just to wrap up, you talked about your Adobe alliance and how a relationship in Adobe and helping that individual. Have you got any advice about how you deal with larger companies when you're a small startup? You're up to about 12 people now. These companies are thousands of employees, and what do you feel is their attitude to smaller companies like you in general, and how do you think, are they resistant? Are they worried about risk of working with a smaller company, or is it just really your reputation and what technology you got to offer, basically?
Yeah, I don't know, like, those who passed up on us, because we have been passed up by some of the companies that we were close to closing. So I don't know the reasons why for them, but we've made it to the finish line for many as well. So I would say, like, I think if I didn't have the partnership with Adobe, I think that has a lot of weight for them. That Adobe, their Adobe rep is recommending Datajoin, and so that's my first thought. Second is we do our best to punch above our weight and look up to par, right? I mean, there's a lot of security requirements when it comes to data, obviously, and so SOC 2 compliance, ISO, certifications, and having data privacy policies. We have all that. We've spent a lot of time, working with the people in security to make sure that that we are passing the test there. And so even though we're a small company, I spent a lot of time on this just to put people at ease that, hey, we know what we're doing with data. There's a reason why Adobe's backing us, and here's some more proof. Here's our security documents. Take a look. So
really, it's about credibility, about the whole package. So because you're putting yourself in their shoes, because you've worked out what their main concerns are, and you're just they got tick marks, haven't they? They got a tick list, and you've given them the structure so they can tick off. So
Exactly.
Brilliant.
All right, I
Problem
think we're
solved.
finished.
That's what it's about.
Yeah. I think we're going to wrap up. Thanks, Sam. It's been a fantastic discussion. I think we covered some really great insights. And Andrew, thanks for doing this. I know it's been a bit rough for you. It's great to see you back a bit more than your normal self. We'll be back next week with another great interview. Got some great guests coming up. I'm pretty booked all up to the new year. It's been fantastic, actually. Got some fantastic people. We'll see you soon, folks. Bye.
See ya, Sam.